Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio, radio, no pictures live stream. Please listen to this presentation as you're driving along in your car or your truck or on public transport. In this essay, I'd like to talk about how the globalists, typically through the more leftist political parties, how they manufacture the political puppet stooges that they will use, they will insert into the Parliament and the Congress, AOC and all those sort of people, how they will use them as their own private personal puppets to do whatever they're told to do. Now I'll pick two women, and they've both recently been in the news, which is why I'm sort of selecting them. But this just illustrates just how well-oiled and well-structured and far-reaching and deep penetrating is the globalist machine when they're out looking for stooge puppets to use, again, for their own political purposes. This is a bigger threat to democracy, or as big a threat to democracy as anything else, is the training and selecting of stooge puppets and then inserting them into the Parliament. It's the same as neutralising democracy. It's a huge threat to democracy, and it's very important, I think, that it's stopped and something's done about it. So let's have a look at a few here now. Here's one, and I've made just a couple of notes here, given there's a few things here. Here's this is a guy comes from a man comes from a third world country. He's an illiterate peasant, and he arrives in Australia and doesn't speak a lick of English, and claims to be a refugee. And after a couple of years of toing and froing, he manages to somehow wangle it, and he gets some sort of residency status so he can bring over his family who are still in the third world country. Now, if that third world country is so dangerous and this sort of thing, why can he leave the wife and children behind and he comes to the first world country? It's a well-worn path for the third world sort of freeloaders and chancers and hustlers. You go, you leave your family behind, say that you're a refugee, say that everyone's trying to kill you and everyone you know, get some sort of residency status, then you can bring them over. It's an insane hustle on a grand scale, which the globalists, again, fully support. Now, the girl arrives, and she's, I think, 9 years old when she comes to Australia. Doesn't speak any English. They come from a third world peasant thing. There's no such thing as running water, and you don't switch on the lights or anything. They live in this hut in the middle of nowhere. So anyway, they arrive in a first world country, and they're heavily supported by NGOs and so on. So they're extremely well looked after, and they seem their fortunes. The guy is a part-time taxi driver, and again, doesn't speak English, but somehow they're able to acquire quite a good standard of living very quickly. The girl goes to a local high school, and within a year of, this is a primary school, within a year of being in Australia, 2 years, she is voted as, apparently the class votes her in to be like the class captain, or the form captain, or prefect. So somebody from a third world country doesn't speak English. That seems a bit odd. Now, she's a struggling student, and even today she's quite clearly very low IQ, but she nonetheless goes on to high school, and again, great things. The class captain, she's the prefect. In spite of being a very ordinary student, suddenly she's getting scholarships and awards, and is fated as some great person, when clearly that's not the case. And again, she's like the school president, the student president in the final year. Very strange here. Now, clearly there's a lot of forces at work. Quite clearly, there's a lot of forces at work to lionize her and turn her into some sort of hero, and so on. So then she comes out of high school, goes straight into university in some bullshit soft course, but suddenly becomes a star student, first winning prizes, She gets to work for NGOs, all sorts of travel. She's a spokeswoman for student affairs, for the oppression of third world people, and is given very generous, well-paid employment and travel by NGOs. I mean, she's only 19, for goodness sakes. And something that her ability and her intelligence and her capability just simply don't warrant. No one of that level of intellect and capability would be anything other than working in some outer suburban retail shop. That would be the height of her capacity if she was left to her own devices. But she's been selected by the globalist elite. She's going to be a useful tool for them. She's given up on Islam. They've come to a Christian country. She's given up on Islam, but suddenly she rediscovers Islam in university. Or is it, I think maybe the final year of high school. Now she's behaving like an Australian girl at a government school, wearing the school uniform, and now suddenly she's all Islamic, and she's in the full covering and the hijab and the whole 9 yards, and she does this at university. So she's now an Islamic, a real pusher of Islamic issues, and she's an oppressed victim in a evil, bad, fascist Christian country, but she's fighting back, and so on and so forth. Now, she's only a few months at university, and already she joins a political party, and a leftist political party, where within days of her joining, she becomes the president of the youth group, of the youth wing of this political party. So this low IQ, zero achieving, built, created, produced nothing, freeloader is suddenly given the presidency of the political party. I mean, you're kidding me, right? But no, there it is. And again, fated all around the country, or within that party at least. The local media gush over this brown Islamic woman who's been made the president of the party, and she gets book publishing deals. The benefits are showered upon her. And then she's given, at the age of, she's never had a job, she's never done anything. At the age of 24, she's then given a plum job within that political party, well-paid plum job. The following year, she's given a plum position in a federal election, so she actually gets elected to the party in a no-lose scenario. I mean, whoever was on the ticket at that point there, would win. So she's been given a plum position in, and so here's someone who's never worked, never done a job, couldn't pass an exam to save her life, is now being paid in the top 1% of all Australians, and she's like 25 years old. Walking around in the hijab, here's this IQ 90 chick, brown chick, is now, but she insists that she doesn't represent Australians, she represents oppressed victims everywhere. She represents the Islamic faith. She represents, brown Arabic peoples, and that's what she represents. She doesn't represent Australia or anything to do with Australia. I mean, you're kidding, right? I might be taking white people's taxpayer money, but I'm entitled to it, and I'm entitled to do it, and so on. So this is an example of just how the globalists create their stooges. Now, I'd like to know in detail and close up the process of selecting, because there's a combination of teachers' unions, NGOs, political party flunkies, and so on. So it's a three-way thing. But I don't know who's moving first and who's because the same NGOs that were responsible for helping them come to Australia and getting the legal representation, well, they spent a lot of money getting the father citizenship status, all that sort of thing, even though he'd arrived illegally. That NGO was key to the whole thing. Now, if you look at the people who are in the NGOs, then you see the cross section of the teachers' unions, the academics, all the other people that were needed to make all this happen. So they're all in that cabal of manufacturing this girl, having putting her through the assembly line process. But she's then there's another one. This is and now the Labor Party have won, by default, have got government now in the United Kingdom. One of their most senior politicians or influential politicians is really from that same assembly production line. So now her parents were, she I don't know, she'll be about 40, I suppose, this woman. And she's influence. She's used as the big tough talking feminist girl boss chick. She's used for that propaganda purpose. Her parents were school teachers and union, very activist in the union, and so on. So she's been exposed to trade union and school teacher type equal outcomes and equity and all that crap that teachers go on about. And she was gifted one of the safest electoral districts in the country at the age of 29. Now, she was an ordinary student going absolutely nowhere, but again, the same thing happened. Suddenly in senior high school, she turns into a stunning student, beyond genius. I mean, genius doesn't begin to describe it. She's winning national prizes at everything from science to this to that. She's, wow is the only thing here. So she gets a scholarship to an Ivy League university. Now, she spends 6 years in university, so she's 24. She's then gifted a very well-paid plum job in a government quango. Straight out of university, walk straight in. She's active in the NGO sector at university, and again the same sort of things: president of the debating club, president of the student union, president of the student newspaper. All that, which clearly couldn't be won on any form of merit. So she then gets a plum job in a quango, and then seamlessly walks into a plum job at an international bank. Again, in a very well-paid job, something that she's got no expertise or qualifications in. Just walks straight into this job that pays the big bucks. Then she walks straight into one of the safest political districts in the country, and similarly, the day she finished at university, she was gifted various consulting roles through this NGO for the left-wing parties, or leftist party. So again, they're finding ways of channeling large amounts of money to her, non-meritoriously. I mean, she's again, just a low IQ flunky parasite stooge passenger. But this is so now she's going to be one of the, and touted as a future prime minister. Now she's going to be one of the most senior government politicians in the United Kingdom. And this is someone who's actually never had a job. She sort of attended the quango and had some mysterious consulting role in the international bank, but no one seemed to know what it actually was, or what she did, or if she did anything. So it seems to be she was just continuing her political activism, but just being paid very handsomely by the bank to do nothing, which is in itself something worthy of investigation. Now, again, we're not talking about a high IQ person here, far from it. But this is, again, another example of this assembly line, this production line, how they create. Now, this is a huge threat to democracy. Politicians that are supposed to represent the people that vote for them. This person clearly doesn't represent that. They've never been accountable to the people. And they've only been accountable to the globalist cabal, who owns and runs them and directs them and gives them their talking points and tells them what to say, what not to say right now. So this is a huge threat to democracy. So this idea of the politician having grown up in a certain electoral district, a certain town or whatever, and everybody knows them, or they know many people in the area, they're part of that local community. Maybe they've done charity work in the local community or serviced it in some ways. then they stand for election, saying these are my policies and these are my views. Then they stand for election and go to the federal parliament or the Congress, again representing the people that voted for them. Those days are pretty much long gone. You might find the odd one or two here or there, but in reality, the party machines, the globalist cabal, has taken over all that. So you get the likes of the ARC and those sorts of things in the United States and all sorts of things across the Western world, where none of these politicians think for a minute that they represent the people. I mean, that's a quaint thought. I mean, you idiot, who would think that? And in this way, the globalists can aggressively undermine democracy, its intent, its purpose, its practice, and just turn parliaments into a rubber stamp for the globalists. You've been a Tacitus today. Your pushback channel. Thank you for listening.